Welcome to Podtendo, a Nintendo podcast, where they analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games. Hey guys, welcome to Podtendo's year in review show, where we wrap up the year by dropping a retrospective. I guess that's what we do with video games. So this is a retrospective of the year that is 2022. It's a fun kind of clip it. It's gonna be about 30 minutes. I personally, growing up, I used to love when shows would do like the best of, or you have the best of sports moments in movies, and I love looking at those things at the end. It's just kind of a fun thing to kind of fondly look back on the year. I'm your co-host Mick. I'm going to be joined by my co-host
Tyson.
Cool. And we're just gonna, talk about the year that was and go from there.
Yeah, it's always nice to do a little reflecting, and no better time to do it for in December. The year ends, get a fresh new year, kind of look back at what the last 11 months or so has given us, and yeah, it's fun. I even like to kind of keep track of things that I came across in the year that I'm like, this might be my favorite movie, or this might be my favorite TV show of the year. So
it's a good time to refer back to those. In fact, I think I might start for next year, kind of get like a book, keep it in the living room. So anytime I watch a movie, just kind of keep tabs of all the movies I watched throughout the year, right? Because you kind of lose track of what did I see, what was good.
there were so many things that you're like, wow, oh yeah, that came out this year. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that came out this year.
Well, you just consume so much media, it is kind of hard. You lose focus after a while, right? So I'm going to try and stay a little bit focused. Tyson, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Not really. I have a couple games that I'm working my way through, so maybe I would love to finish the Assassin's Creed franchise in its entirety. But there's just some games that just like they're hours dumps, so it's just a time game. I'll get there eventually.
Great, awesome. Yeah, myself, I don't really do that kind of stuff. Anyways, so rough year on the podcast. I feel like we played some really bad games. Next year's queued up to be like really solid though, so looking forward to that. I'm blaming Final Fantasy VIII for my miserable 2022. I hate you. Getting into it though, we do have to look back a little bit and talk about podcast specific things. So we added something new to the podcast. I changed my notes after 6 seasons of doing them exactly the same. We added new features to our Let's Play sections. We're supposed to ask kind of 2 to 3 random questions while discussing the games, but I forgot. I started in Golden Sun and Gauntlet and then kind of forgot. So looking back at the rest of the year, so our questions are, what is the hook? All right, so what makes you keep playing the game? Do you have a hook that you would like to discuss with either GoldenEye, Final Fantasy VIII, the Metroid, Game Boy Advance games, Metal Gear Solid, ActRaiser, Castlevania 64, Yoshi's, or Donkey Kong Country 3? So those, is there a hook that we missed that you would like to wrap up the year?
I mean,
with?
I could just always talk about Metal Gear Solid some more.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that hook is man, this franchise is so good. I want more of these games.
It's the stealth espionage, right? Of that. That's those first couple levels where it's not just a running gun. All of a sudden you're like, wait, I have to sneak, and there's different ways of sneaking? This is amazing. I think that's the hook of that game, right?
Yeah. Well, and all the cool characters, you're there to take out the Foxhound, try to take down Foxhound, and it's so cool. There's all these different characters and Liquid, and it's seems like our character knows more than he's leading on. It drip feeds, and it's this is a wonderful little plot. Love it.
All right. So then the second question we ask, is it a better movie or TV show? So of kind of the games I have at least listed on the notes, is there one that we kind of didn't talk about? You were like, they definitely should have done that.
I want a GoldenEye TV show. No, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah.
I mean, having a movie or a TV show of a lot of these things would be actually really solid.
Really, I'm the opposite. I kind of I don't think video games and movies and TVs necessarily correspond, right? Video games are a different medium, they're a different storytelling medium. I don't know if any of these stories are good enough outside of Metal Gear Solid to write home about, right? I'd probably do without. And even that, I was like, no, Metal Gear Solid is the perfect video game story. I don't think it would work well in another medium.
Yeah. Well, I think it's already a kind of a movie. It, it just like trying to unravel that plot in TV or movie format just doesn't work. Like, you need to be like, there's times where it's a 2 hour long cutscene.
Mhm.
It's 2 hour long, basically exposition dump. You're like, you're gonna watch 2 hour, like too long. Even if they're hour long segments, you're gonna sit down. That's episode 1, episode
It
7,
doesn't
and
work.
8.
It just
like,
won't. They
it's
can't do it.
impossible.
It's a
Yeah.
video game. Go play a fucking video game. Don't
Yeah.
Stupid video game movies. I hate them. Okay, so then finally a beat or complete of those games. I'm gonna say beat to everything except DKC 3. It could warrant a complete. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
I think it's
Cool.
the one game on that list that's also like completing isn't a ridiculous, arduous chore.
Mm-hmm. And update, since we played that game at the start of the month, I actually have started working backwards through all the levels and trying to complete the game while I ride my bike. So there you go. So fun stuff. All right. So that kind of wraps up our just things that we had hanging over us from this year. So in theory, if I update the notes, 2013, 10 years ago. All right. 2023, we'll have those as part of our notes going forward. How cute. Maybe we're even doing other stuff for YouTubes and stuff. Maybe we're making different series. Neat. Okay. How about now we're specifically looking at our 2022 year in review. So we're going to start out with our top news story. Could it be Russia's invading Ukraine? How about the hybrid work/work from home is here to stay? IT companies started layoffs. Interest rates started to climb. And I made a note of look how old we've become, because now interest rates are a thing I've said on this podcast, and kind of tying into that, the recession. So do you have a top news story from 2022?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the Russia invading Ukraine. Like, it's a pretty absolute crazy year where we were struggling with supply chain issues, and then we have a war brewing, or war currently happening.
Yeah, and I guess in theory you could argue that the war kind of everything else is dictate, like the recession and interest rates are kind of tied to that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And tech companies doing layoffs as well, because it's like, with like our economy being ever tighter, tech companies are getting more and more closer to entertainment companies, like with streaming services, essentially. Just
as well as I've heard, tech companies kind of worked on this weird model where they would not make money. They were more consumed about getting users and like collecting user data than actually making money. That's why like Uber Eats was always so cheap. You're always like, how is it cheaper for me to get someone to pick up food and bring it to my house, and it would just be for me to go to McDonald's and buy the food? Because the tech companies were like taking these giant financial losses to keep everything super cheap so you could use them. And now all of a sudden the interest rates have kind of like, oh, we have to make money, so that everything's jacked up. And it was these very weird business models that obviously weren't going to work, and now it's kind of like bottomed out. Now the tech companies are like, now we have no money. Shit.
Yeah. Well, I find also tech companies aren't necessarily the most lean. So when times get tough, and interest rates we all got debts, even corporations.
Yeah.
So when their debts gets expensive, what's the most expensive part of their business? Labor. Yeah. So you got to make cuts. So
okay. Well,
just way she goes. But
that was the most boring conversation I've ever had on here.
Yep.
Okay.
So back to fun stuff.
Yeah, let's go back to fun stuff, pop culture. But you know what? I actually don't hate when we go back to list our old shows and we kind of mention. So the fact I wrote down a whole list, I'll be able to go back maybe in a year or two and be like, oh, that's what happened. Neat. Okay. Top TV shows. Again, pop culture. Let's look at stuff that's not boring. Recessions.
It's not boring. It's just more grim.
All right.
Let's get to the fun stuff.
Yeah. So top TV shows from 2022. I just made a big list and I kind of highlighted the ones I liked, and then I'll make up my choice. So we've got She-Hulk from Disney Plus, wasn't bad. Andor, the Star Wars series that actually did it. House of the Dragon was released this year. Rings of Power, we saw the first season. Star Trek Lower Decks, saw a third season come out. The Rehearsal with Nathan Fielder. The Bear, I mentioned that I think actually in our last show. Barry had a third season come out. Stranger Things. I think I even forgot, what were the other Star Wars properties? Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan. So of those shows, Tyson, or even just of any show, what was your top favorite TV show from the year?
I'm it's kind of was a year. Ring of Power was interesting. We kind of had a fun thing where we were enjoying watching it back and forth and talking about it, but I was never like super invested, and like this show is like I'm obsessed with this show. It's like it's watchable. I didn't watch any She-Hulk. I didn't watch any Andor. I didn't watch any House of Dragons. I didn't watch any Star Trek. I didn't watch any Rehearsal. I didn't watch any Bear. I didn't watch any Barry. I didn't watch any Stranger Things. But what I did watch was the new season of The Simpsons. And even after all these years, being in the gutter, me throwing mud at it, saying it's been no good for a while, they come out and nail 2 amazing episodes.
Okay.
And I think those 2 episodes weren't my top TV show.
Sick.
Because I think the way they handled their parody of It and their parody, their Halloween this year brought back that magic that I've been missing from my Simpsons Halloween for so long. And to have that magic dripped back into my life, I was like, this wins everything. I was going to go back and I was going to try to catch up on this year. But, it's like, no, I really, really enjoyed The Simpsons. And I can actually say that, like, honestly, for the first time in a while. So
that's great. No, that's really cool. I do the Trails of Horror. Actually, the last 2 Trails of Horrors, really good. Like I watched them and I was like, this is like almost like season 8 level of quality. Like super meticulous, well written. They were funny. They had all the right notes. They weren't just dumb for dumb's sake. Really, so I'm that's glad that the Simpsons have kind of found it back. For myself, I did miss out on Star Trek's Lower Deck. I know that was my favorite show from kind of 2, maybe 3 seasons ago, right?
Yeah, I've been meaning to get to it. I have. Same with Rick and Morty. It's like I've been meaning to catch up on these things. I just
haven't done it, right? For myself, Rings of Power was good. House of Dragon, it got better towards the end. Like if you had chance, watch it. Stranger Things, the lead up, the fact that they took a break, it wasn't good, but the fact that they actually like they kind of let release 7 episodes and then there was 2 to go, it was very compelling. They've tied in a story. So the very first episode of Stranger Things has like the breadcrumbs laid out for the final season and like the final villain, which I think is amazing storytelling. It's one of those things like when you look into it, it kind of stands out above and beyond what I thought Stranger Things was. It's not terrible. Andor, probably the best Star Wars TV show we've got. If you've liked, like, it's better than Mandalorian. It was really good.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good things. I just
Rings of Power. It was really good. Galadriel, like, I didn't know I had a thing for like hot blonde elf chicks, but like she killed it. Like that's one of my fetishes now is just her. That good job, her.
She's your celebrity crush.
Oh my gosh, like just when she's in battle and she's kind of dirt. Oh, like whew, what a babe. Good for her. Like, other than that, now with that being said, the best show I watched this year was Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal. It is the most unhinged, what the fuck show I've seen in a long time. He has a whole TV series called Nathan for You, where he goes to small businesses and he has stupid brains ideas that he tries to like help promote their business or push them to the next level. It's incredible television, and I loved every second of it. I've watched it a couple times now. It's great. I love it. The Rehearsal,
nice.
TV show of the year.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. How about top sports stories? So let's move on from the little screens in our house and the streaming services to top sports stories. So the Avs win the Stanley Cup. The Astros won the World Series again. Golden State Warriors return. The Rams, big gambles, and trading all their first-round picks finally pay off. We're seeing the World Cup kind of conclude. A rival golf league started. Is there any, games specifically, losses, draft picks that stand out? So what is your top sports story of the year?
Honestly, I've been I've gotten more and more into sports as I've gotten a little older. I went through a phase of just kind of only really following basketball and football. So I've kind of watched me some baseball every now and then, and I've dipped my toes in hockey for the last couple of years now. But the World Cup has really caught my eye, and I think it's probably a lot to do with Alphonso Davies and Team Canada kind of being an actual wow, we play football, we're actually good, and we kind of lost a few games, but just us to make the World Cup after not in my lifetime ever being on the World Cup stage is super cool. So
the lead up to it, the qualifying, the games,
100%, and
the big game in Edmonton, right when they clinched, the game in Toronto, the must-dos, the obstacles they overcame. I mean, they kind of had a shit performance in the World Cup.
Yep. Well, they got beat up by Croatia, and Croatia's having an incredible performance as of this recording. And yeah, it's so cool. Like, I mean, and I go back and it's like, yeah, we kind of like pooped ourselves in the World Cup, but getting there is such a pat on the back for everyone involved. It's you know what? Cool. Very cool.
There you go.
So.
And it was nice to get there because I think Canada, US is hosting the next one. So we get an automatic bid, which is okay, but it's nice to qualify for the one before, right? So it's how to build a program. So it's not just you go in and you win. You have to make sustained excellence is kind of what you're going for. Yeah. Those are probably the biggest moments. That kind of had my mind was watching the qualifying games and then of course making time for the World Cup. And although I don't know, sometimes you're like, oh, the World Cup's so cool. There was some reporter that day one, he was an American reporter and he wore like a pride shirt, and one of the security guards told him to like, you have to take it off, and he's like, no, you can't make me. And he just died as of this recording. So we're recording it maybe earlier in December. He was just mysteriously killed, like he just mysteriously died while he was in Qatar.
Ah, jeez.
Even the former CEO or the guy who commissioner of FIFA, Sepp Blatter, came out and said, "Oh, Qatar was a terrible idea for the World Cup. It was just a big money scheme. Shouldn't have went."
Yeah. Well, unfortunately,
depression.
There is a lot of controversy in this in this news story as well, and I know some people that are just flat out boycotting it, and it's like. I'm 100% with you, and it's bitter for me to like have a chance to kind of watch Canada's soccer program like finally like make it, and to have it be this World Cup in particular. So
it's I don't know. I think it is the biggest news story of the year, right? Obviously, but yeah, there you go. Also notable though was the Avalanche, when they would win games, all the crowd would sing all the lyrics to All the Small Things by Blink-182. That got me through a lot of the summer. So good job, Avs fans.
That's fair. It's like way to bring Blink-182 back into my life.
Yeah, the
I appreciate
PA would start it, and then they would just stop, and then the thing was in the third period when they were winning, they would just like the crowd would just sing the rest of the song.
Yeah,
delightful.
That's cool.
All right, top movies from the year. So big silver screen. There we go. We're movie aficionados. In fact, you guys are getting, I'll tell you right now, we're reviewing all the X-Men movies next year. So we've got several episodes every other week or outside of our numbered shows, we'll be doing X-Men reviews. So we're diving back into our origins. We did kind of a previously on X-Men series this last year. So getting ready for that. So kind of excited to go back. Haven't watched those for a little while. And maybe we're getting new X-Men at some point in the MCU. Yay.
Yeah, and we're supposed to be getting in a continuation, which is like, oh man, I hope that they're doing, and supposedly we're rebooting the comics again, even though we did it like 2 years ago. We're rebooting it again, everybody. But I have a sneaking suspicion it's probably tying into Disney.
Yeah.
Starting to release some movies and actually giving the X-Men some love. It's taken some while. We've talked about it when we had those episodes. Hopefully it all pays out.
Sweet. Okay.
We started it. Just you're welcome.
So top movies that did come out this year. We saw Thor: Love and Thunder, Top Gun: Maverick, Turning Red, Lightyear, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Doctor Strange 2, Prey, Bob's Burgers, The Batman, Weird, The Al Yankovic Story, Black Panther 2, Chippendales Rescue Rangers, and Clerks 3 saw a release this year. So, Tyson, what is your favorite movie? Do you have any honorable mentions?
Well, I was tossing it between two.
All right.
I really enjoyed the Bob's Burgers movie. It was a very good little adventure with the Bob's Burgers family. Like it's an okay little show. I like it. But the Chippendales Rescue Rangers movie was delightful. It was so fun and creative, and I loved the unique take and modernization that they did with it. And it wasn't just like the same thing again. It was what if? It was a nice little like what if story, and they got really creative with the animation style. Like one was 2D and one was CGI, and it was a just animation like fans' dream, because they did through so many different styles and they mixed stuff up and effects would happen. And it was just really cool. Like, I thought it was just a really fun movie.
That's amazing. I almost had that. Well, I have it highlighted actually as one of the ones I really enjoyed. So one of my notable mentions was the Chippendales Rescue Rangers movie. It was not bad. It wasn't horrendous. Now, big disclaimer. As of this recording, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I've heard is amazing. I haven't got around to watching it. I started watching it, but there are some subtitles, and I was definitely in a mindset where I couldn't read. I haven't seen Top Gun yet. I haven't seen Weird, and I haven't seen Clerks. I imagine one of those four might make my best movies. Lightyear, I watched. I know it's dumb. You're like, Buzz Lightyear movie? It's kind of good. So there's, if you haven't seen it, it's a very challenging, hard sci-fi concept of Lightyear. He's trying to get home, and as he travels and he tests their Lightyear capabilities, he keeps jumping 10 years into the future, but everyone on the planet stays the same.
Yep.
And eventually
do you remember like the Buzz Lightyear Command animated TV show? Because if you do, you'll love that movie.
Yeah, like
it's pretty. I enjoyed it from what I watched.
There were some continuity things. I have some questions, but other than that, it wasn't bad.
Time travel's always tricky.
Yeah, Chippendales, like Tyson mentioned, it was above and beyond kind of what I expected. Andy Samberg has kind of moved into this category in my mind where anything he's a part of, almost like I'm in. Like, I'm just a big Andy Samberg fan. Pop star, never stopping. If you've never seen that, go watch it. It's hilarious. Like, you think it's going to be some stupid bro movie? No. It is something completely better than that. It is a great little story. So he's kind of in that upper echelon. Like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is always enjoyable.
If you haven't seen Hot Rod, that movie is so brilliant.
He does such nice work. Andy, congratulations. Prey was a take on Predator. It was done in, I don't know the tribe, but it is one of the only Native American movies that was filmed completely in whatever dialect that they speak. So apparently in Native American cultures, they don't really write down a language. They have elders that kind of have tomes and like dictionaries of words, and it's all spoken mouth. So I couldn't learn it, right? I can't learn these dialects because it's kind of like a boys club. They kind of keep it to themselves. But they actually went through and there's actually a release of Apache is maybe the tribe. There's an actual cut of Prey there where everyone just speaks Apache the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is really badass.
Very cool.
It's got a strong female protagonist. She grows. The dog in the movie was some rescue dog that apparently the crew just kept. They brought him in for some stunts and they trained him and he did really well. He was some rescue. And watching that whole movie, I thought, wow, what a beautiful part of the world. And I was like, it's a shame that I don't live in such a beautiful country. It was filmed in Calgary.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. Okay.
It's so funny that you're like, wow, this is like a really picturesque, like cool world. And you're like, oh, right. That's like my backyard.
Like top notch, outstanding. Prey, go watch it.
100%. Yeah,
you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't watch it. It's phenomenal. Like, I've seen it 3 times, right?
Oh, man. And honestly, like that dog just kills every scene he's in. And it's so good.
Yeah. And like the only thing I don't like is the fact that it was canonically said by the director supposed to be the first time the Predator ever comes to Earth, although it would make more sense if they came other times.
Yes,
because they definitely were here back in like Aztec times for Alien versus Predator. But anyways, as a result, again, big disclaimer: I haven't seen Top Gun. I haven't seen everything everywhere all at once. Weird, Clerks. I'm sure they're fine. My pick is also Chippendales Rescue Rangers, but I needed
to. I think I love this exercise where it's like, to the listener at home who probably hasn't listened to all of our stuff, because even Doctor Strange 2 is pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a favorite movie. Mm-hmm. It's kind of nice to like write them down, so when we go back and re-listen to this, we can be like, oh yeah, those were like some fun movies, because you sometimes forget about those little like gems that you just haven't gone back and reflected on. So, because I totally forgot about Chippendales Rescue Rangers until I was doing this list, and I was like, oh yeah, that movie came out this year. That movie was amazing. It was so good.
It's one of the ones I've seen it twice. That and Prey. Those are the ones I've watched the most, right, at this point. So actually, and Doctor Strange too, because Mom wanted to watch it. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go. So Chippendales. Good job. Thanks, Andy. Top video games, because we are a video game podcast. They included, what came out this year? Lego Star Wars, Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, Resident Evil 8, Village, Shadow of Rose, so that was a little DLC. Stray, where you play as a cat in kind of a dystopian future. Elden Rings, The Quarry, and Shredder's Revenge. So Tyson, that's just a list of games. What is your favorite video game of the year?
Well, I haven't played a ton of these, but I did play some Rainbow Six Extraction as well as some of the games on this list. And I just had a lot of fun with it. Like, I mean, I like Rainbow Six Siege. It's a very, like a first-person shooter. It's a bit more slow and methodical. And because I play most games solo, it's a fun experience to kind of like have to go through all these challenges, because I kind of thought the gameplay was going to be like, oh, it's going to be pretty short and not fun. But I ended up just having a blast with it. But if you listen to our Shredder's Revenge review or podcast, you know that game's that's my game. It's my game of the year. It's the best game I've played. It's so fun. There's so much in-depth combat and gameplay, and it's just like lots of replayability and and fun characters, and it's just a blast from the past and filled with nostalgia. So that's my pick. My pick.
Yeah, notable section. I realized I talked about lots of other movies, video games, guys. I think I'm playing Pokemon Violet. I enjoy that you can kind of see the Pokemon out in the fields, and you can go catch them. That's quite enjoyable. But Shredder's Revenge, delightful experience. It is everything I'd want in a Ninja Turtle experience. I was kind of waxing poetic that my Ninja Turtle experiences in my life, unless I have like children at some point that I have to reintroduce them to, is probably over. And I kind of came to terms with that when we did Turtles in Time, right? And then we subsequently looked at the Turtles movies, and I kind of assumed that was it for me. So the fact that this kind of came back into my life, this thing from my childhood, right? Something I grew up with, one of my first pop cultural loves, right? Outside of Batman, it was probably Batman and Turtles are things I loved as kids, and they came back into my life. Everything I could want and digest, and just kind of the wave of nostalgia and safety and comfort that came over me, right? And that was a big part of what I play video games for. Is I want that comfort. I want those experiences that kind of makes me feel safe, and that's what that game did. So Shredder's Revenge is also my game of the year. So far we have the same news story, we have the same sports story, we have the same movie, we have the same video game. We are basically we have different TV shows of the year. Cool.
Yeah, we differ sometimes.
See, we're different sometimes. All right, so that kind of ends our year in the review. But we are a Podtendo. We are a podcast. Let's look back at all the games we played this year and say, what's our favorite game? So we'll do a win-place show. So top 3. We started this year with a blast. GoldenEye. We went into Final Fantasy VIII retrospective, which kind of faded. Good times.
Killed us.
Metroid, Zero Mission. We played Fusion. We played Legend of the Mystical Ninja. We played X-Men on the Genesis, and Metal Gear Solid, and then X-Men on the Game Gear, and then X-Men Clone Wars, and Army Men, Sarge's Heroes, which I kind of forgot about and might have included. Oh no, there is a game on here I think that I forgot to include. Let's see if we can figure it out. ActRaiser. We played Golden Sun. Gauntlet 64. We played Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Castlevania 64. Mario Golf. Mario Tennis. Yoshi's Story. Donkey Kong Country 3. And Shredder's Revenge. So of those, Tyson, what is your win-place show of the year?
I feel like you're missing a very important game on that list.
Yeah.
Gomor? You forgot
Legend of the Mystical.
No, Metal Gear Solid.
No, it's there. In between the X-Men games.
Is it? Oh, it is. Then I don't know. I thought that was the one.
No, there's one I think unless I updated the notes and resent them. Okay, so
So my 3, because I think I want to go with X-Men Clone Wars, because that one's just holds a really good spot in mine. And then I think I want to go Shredder's Revenge, followed by Metal Gear Solid as my number 1. Like those two are like Shredder's Revenge, awesome, but Metal Gear Solid is Metal Gear Solid, and like that game started a deep love for tactical espionage games and stealth, as well as like just random conspiracy theories that are just batshit crazy. So
there you go. And in terms of games that we played this year, right? Just kind of looking back at this list, you kind of have like landmark achievement games each year, right? Whether they be like a big Super Mario 64 and a Pokemon, or we look at like the Legend of Zelda over the year. I would say GoldenEye was had a very cultural, important impact. Metal Gear Solid changed just how video games are told, right? So that was definitely kind of our big. If you look back in the year, that was our big monumental game, right? And I guess when we were setting up the year, is we kind of molded it around really Metroid and Metal Gear, right? Looking at that list, myself, my third place was Shredder's Revenge. That game was phenomenal. I think it outdid everything on this list. Donkey Kong Country 3, I'll be honest, it's not terrible. You know what? Maybe I'd do a tie, a draw between Shredder's Revenge and Donkey Kong Country 3. I think those are both such strong, influential experiences. GoldenEye doesn't hold up. I realize it's culturally very impactful and everyone loved GoldenEye, but you play it now and you're like, it's not good. Number 2 is the as mentioned, Metal Gear Solid experience. A lot of fun. It's good to go back and replay. But my number 1 game, my favorite game of the year, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. What a solid, fun experience that is. I've got it on my Switch. I've got a digital copy. I play it. I've got the fan remake that I play occasionally. I know it's really tough and it's frustrating, but goddamn, do I love the aesthetics of that game. And it's just, that is my comfort food game of the year. And I kind of mentioned that really with all 3 of those. It's just kind of how comforting and safe I feel when I play the Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Metal Gear, and Shredder's Revenge. Kind of all feel in that same category, right? Like they're just such nice places I want to go to and escape and just help relieve the stress and kind of help me decompress in my life. So, but Zombies Ate My Neighbors, whew, man, that was a hell of an experience. Glad we audibled out of Castlevania 2 for the 64 and did that instead, because like, man, that got the nostalgia and the Halloween running through my body.
That hit the spot. Yeah, that made Halloween feel like Halloween. Mm-hmm. It had and you know, I think we had a lot of fun games this year where I know we kind of have, because while we were going through it, it was a bit of like pulling teeth. But this will be a year when we look back, and I think we'll be happy that a lot of the games we covered, mm-hmm. because we filled in a lot of the gaps, which we've been meaning to do. And we ended up discovering a few little hidden gems like we like to do every year. Like sometimes it's Dr. Mario. This year it's Zombies Ate My Neighbors, game that we're like kind of came out of the blue, and we're like, wow, this game is really phenomenal. Like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, they stay Donkey with Kong you. Country. You just fun. Good times. Yeah, no.
Like for Donkey Kong Country to not be on the top of this list, like as a dominant presence, it's like, wow, that actually is a really strong year.
It's more in depth than DKC 2, but DKC 2 is such a better game in my mind. In fact, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I just wanted to listen to the soundtrack, so I just got my Switch online and just, while whatever I was watching like a game, like a hockey game, and I just played the music of the pause menus for the levels in DKC 2. Because like the sound in that game is amazing. It's the best video game soundtrack of all time, in my opinion. Like it's great.
It's one of those things where like this is how, like, it's almost when we think of like Star Trek, it has that iconic sound
and feel.
And this has that feel where you're like, I'm just transported away from the themes on the actual like the pirate ship to the underwater levels to like the jungles, like everything's so, or to the Bumblebee level where it's like really ethereal and like has like lots of movement. You're like, man, this is way better than it has any right to be. So yeah, totally. Cool. But that's just a side tangent on Donkey Kong Country 2.
There you go. Sweet. Awesome. So that kind of wraps up our year in review. So there, now if you listen in the future, Mick, you can remember everything that happened.
Yes, but don't hate if we didn't say that the thing you liked was the best. It's
all very opinionated. And like movies I just haven't seen, probably what some people would say are their best movie. I'll get around to it. Yeah. I'm like I think I went to the movies, like the theater twice this year.
I don't think I went once, to be honest. I just watched everything at home when I could.
It's just so accessible to at home, right? That's even almost like, but I mean, sports are like that too. Like, would you want to go to a hockey game, or would you rather just sit at home and watch it? Because I think I'd rather just sit at home and watch it at this point. I'm like,
yeah. See, unless it's like for the experience, like I'd want to fly to Vancouver or Toronto and go watch like catch like an MLS game and then catch like a NHL game or something like that.
I guess if you care about the game, I'm not going. I'm not going because it's an important game. I want to be at home. If it's like just an experience, right, I'd go out. So okay, cool.
Yeah, basically.
Sweet. So with that, I think that wraps up our year. Good job by you. Thanks for sticking with me. And,
yeah, thanks you for doing all the notes for some of these hard games that we had to slog our way through. But
yeah, ActRaiser. What a
got
shitty
there.
game ActRaiser was.
It wasn't so bad. I mean, it's no Final Fantasy VIII.
No, Final Fantasy VIII. You suck. I hate you.
That's going to be the running joke from now on. Ghouls and Ghosts is so thankful. It's like, thank you, Final Fantasy VIII, for taking that spot from me.
No problem. I'm Leon, but sometimes I'm Squall. Okay, yeah. Go on, buddy.
And I'm sad. It's like, but everybody thinks you're so charismatic. Screw everybody. I'm just walking away now.
Okay, great. I think that we might be over our time limit for the month, so we better say bye.
Bye.
Okay, Happy New Year's. See you guys next year. Bye.